Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I'm looking at the time because I have to get my 8-year-old and pick him up in a few minutes, but we're going to do a show first. So listen to this. Now, we got big news, and I'm going to tie it in, especially you people who have not, you people that are staring at green or red candles, whatever the case may be, you people that are staring at Bitcoin and Dogcoin and Ethereum proof of work and all of these things that are merely either tests or distractions. I'm going to show you what's really going on today. You're starting to see Coinbase turn on Bitcoin. Watch this.
One mentions on the energy piece that you're talking about. I don't disagree with you at all about the energy component in terms of blockchain, but Bitcoin unto itself requires so much energy. It's somewhat preposterous how much energy it requires. If you were going to create a new currency today, given all of the concerns around energy, I'm not sure this is how you would do it. And so for all of those companies out there that are screaming about ESG and this and that and the environment, I don't understand how they can actually get behind this in a meaningful way, at least not now or anytime in the future, or anytime in the near future, rather.
There's a lot in your question for me to unpack. Let me just...
There's a lot that he can't answer in the question.
Bitcoin is global. The users are global. Even if you had an entire crackdown of China, which would be huge because you're talking about 10-15% of the global population, Bitcoin is an important innovation. And when I say Bitcoin, all cryptocurrency, but in particular, I'm referring to Bitcoin at the moment. Well, with respect to the energy efficiency, look, about half of energy that goes into Bitcoin is renewable. That's an estimate. You'll see different estimates, a little lower, a little higher. And not only is it renewable forms of energy, but oftentimes it's the waste. It's energy that otherwise wouldn't be used because the miners have these rigs that mine for Bitcoin, and they can flip them on and they can flip them off. And the waste is a lot cheaper, so they'll flip them on and they'll use that wasted energy. So there's really no environmental harm in that respect. And I think you're going to see other advancements that's going to, in general, make mining for Bitcoin more energy efficient. And overall, look, new innovations require more energy. And so if we don't want to use more energy, we should just stop all innovation.
We're not going to Mars if you're worried about a carbon footprint.
We're not going to Mars. We're not going to increase GDP. We're not going to be more efficient as a society. So if you believe that the blockchain itself is an interesting tool that is going to be efficient and is going to add to gains in economy and quality of life, you have to bear some increase in energy use.
Tom, I want to disagree with you wholeheartedly.
He just wouldn't let it go.
The facts. Which are to say is 50% of Bitcoin, I do not believe, and I have seen the numbers that you're referencing, are clean energy. I do not believe that to be the case. I actually think there's a lot of data to suggest that currently is not the case. I think that is a goal. And by the way, it's also the goal of Elon Musk. If it was true, I believe that he would actually be back using Bitcoins tomorrow. So I just...
All right, so my point is CNBC's been activated, and these guys do what they're told. Now, Michelle Vandenberg sent me this. I don't know if I got this stuff out of order. I don't think he sent me this. Might have. Okay, but anyway, this is an article about a guy who apparently invested through his Coinbase account $20 in something called the Rocket Bunny, and then he woke up one morning and his $20 was showing up as $1.189 trillion. And so I tweeted this out. XRP is a security, but Rocket Bunny is legit. All the world's a stage. And then that's a quote from the actual article. And so anyway, I was just making a point that this is how you know that something much more is going on. Now, I also wanted to make this point. I'm not going to show this clip. This is another clip I've shown before of Jay Clayton talking about how ICOs, if they're securities, we're going to regulate them. Well, this is just a thought I had this morning when I was getting ready. When this is true, I mean, when you pull weeds, you try to get to the root. This prevents them from growing back and spreading. Ethereum was literally the root of all the ICOs back in 2017, but the SEC ignored the root. In other words, all those ICOs, all of them that he's talking about, they were all built on Ethereum. But why didn't they go after Ethereum? They didn't want the weeds, the ICOs, or did they want the weeds, the ICOs / Ethereum test? Did they want this to spread? Was this all a test? That's my point. The answers to this are everything. Now, we've heard about the down with the short the banks. Bitcoin's going to be the world reserve currency. We don't need central banks anymore. All that. I've told you since the inception of this channel that that's how I would think if I was 18. But in my 40s, I think about who's backing it and what the powers that be are doing. And I think, like Brad Garlinghouse, you're not getting rid of the central banks, because the countries, they will bring out their tanks and their guns before that happens. For that reason, I made what I consider the mature adult decision to look at Ripple early on instead of Bitcoin, because I knew that wasn't happening. Okay, so today, Gold Telegraph, breaking news. The Bank for International Settlements has given its full backing to the development of central bank digital currencies. You're going to want to follow me here, because any of you who have not seen what I'm about to show you, you're going to be blown away about what's been going on the last 2 or 3 years. Saying that they are needed to modernize finance and ensure big tech does not take control of money. Okay? What is the BIS? The BIS is like the central bank of central banks. These are the member banks. 63 central banks and monetary authorities are members of the BIS. You're going to want to make a note of Bank of Thailand, because you're about to hear about it. So this is an adult conversation from a guy that used to work at Ripple. This is from 2018.
I think we have come a long way since the initial days of Bitcoin and blockchain, where the narrative back then was down with banks, down with central banks, down with governments. The philosophy then, initial days, was very anarchist, so to say. I think Ripple actually took a very contrarian view and actually said, no, we will be working with central banks, regulators, and banks to make sure that our solution is widely adopted. And which is why I'm actually employed by Ripple, because so we actually work very closely with about 40, 50 central banks across the globe, including Bank of Thailand.
So they work with Bank of Thailand, that's one of the BIS's banks, and they work with 40 to 50 central banks. We've heard them say this several times. We also know that Ripple is piloting private ledgers for central banks, and that they're working with around 50 plus central banks. XRP today sent me this. Hot off the press, this guy is from where? The BIS Innovation Hub, Benoit Curé, I guess. Hot off the press, the new BIS Annual Economic Report chapter on central bank digital currency is out. Read how CBDCs could form the backbone of a new digital payment system by enabling broad access and providing strong data governance and privacy standards. Here's the report. As you go down, this guy says CBDCs are a concept whose time has come. They open a new chapter for the monetary system by providing a technology advanced representation of central bank money. In doing so, they preserve the core features of money that only central bank can provide, anchored in the foundation of trust in the central bank. Then he says CBDCs could form the backbone of a new digital payment system by enabling broad access. Okay, now I want to make a point here, and my point is, when I first started telling people the truth about how Bitcoin was not the one, I heard things like, oh, well, you can't talk bad about Bitcoin because what's good for Bitcoin is good for the entire crypto space. I knew that wasn't true, because I knew that these people were already talking about how Bitcoin has all these problems, and I knew that because there was this short the banks, down with the banks mantra, it wasn't happening. And so therefore, it was not good for what's coming, because what's coming is regulation, and these people aren't putting up with it. But you don't have to take my word for it. Stuart XRP sent me this. Here's a clip from, and Digital Assets Daily had said, did you hear that? That was an explosion. As I've said, Bitcoin was the test run. Those who follow the channel, he's got a channel himself on YouTube, have been well aware. Hold on tight, exciting times ahead. Listen to this. These are both these same two guys from the BIS.
In the country, but as I guess we've said repeatedly, and that's on top of the excessive energy used to mine Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more of a speculative asset than money, and it has certainly failed the test of becoming a means of payment.
Okay, so that's from the BIS. Okay, well, I went to the BIS's channel, and this might open your eyes a little, because I'll go a step further. It was never Bitcoin. It was never Ethereum. They were merely tests, both of them. This is this guy, same guy that's down here and in the report here. Okay, listen to what he says.
The currencies promise a lot, but they don't always deliver. Think about money. Money has value because it has users. We use it as money. Without users, it would simply be a worthless token. And that's true whether it's a piece of paper with a face on it or a digital token. And the more other people accept money as money, the more I want to use it. So in that respect, the motto would be, the more, the merrier. But today's cryptocurrencies don't necessarily work like that. Well, take Bitcoin. The system works by bringing together two groups. On the one hand are the users who make and receive payments, and on the other are the so-called miners who record the transactions in the ledger. Now, the two groups depend on each other because the users need the miners to record the transactions, but the miners also get paid for doing their job. And because the miners can pick and choose which transactions to process, the more you offer to pay the miners, the more likely it is that your transaction will be included in the ledger.
All right, that's part one. Here's part two. Watch this.
Well, fees can rise a lot during peak times. At one point last December, fees reached $57 per transaction. So just imagine, if you bought a $2 coffee with Bitcoin, you would have had to pay $57 to make that transaction go through. So when there's congestion, rather than having the more the merrier, we have to turn the motto on its head. The motto should be now, the more the sorrier.
So he just called Bitcoin sorry. It gets worse.
Now, this kind of thing happens because some people hold Bitcoin not as money, but as assets, which is to say, you pay to hold them rather than to use them as money. And crypto kitties are a good example of this, and they're just like Beanie Babies, baseball cards, and Tamagotchi.
He just called he just compared Bitcoin to Beanie Babies and crypto kitties and baseball cards.
Well, the obvious solution seems like we should increase the capacity, but there's a catch there too, because if you increase the capacity to the extent that it becomes costless to use the system, this will drive away the miners because there's no fees being paid, which will be collected by the miners. So think of a road. If it's too narrow, there'll be congestion. But if it's too wide and there's no congestion whatsoever, then there's no one to maintain the road. And then you will see weeds pushing up through the surface. This is another respect in which cryptocurrencies do not conform to some of the basic economics of money. And we discuss other examples in the chapter.
All right. So what does this all have to do with Ripple? Here's what it has to do with Ripple. This is from, we've shown this before, but there's a lot of people out there who still don't understand. This is when Brad Garlinghouse was invited to Switzerland, and they had all these central bankers in a room, and who was there? This guy is the head of the BIS, which is Augustin Carstens, and then you had the head of the IMF at the time, Christine Lagarde, sitting right there. And then here's Augustin Carstens.
Blockchain can be very powerful for many alternative applications, like for example in settlement systems, keeping settlements of financial transactions, so some back office applications. So I think the technology by itself should be embraced, and we should see what the uses of that technology should be.
All right, so there's that. And then this was Christine Lagarde on stage shoot, I don't remember when it was, 2019.
Into new technologies that will actually change the way in which intermediation is conducted. Eliminate some of the barriers, including the unconscious biases that exists out there. And I think in the banking system at large, in many, many countries, the difference will not be between those who are disrupted and those who survive, but it will be between those who are cannibalized because they're not seeing it coming and they're not embracing it, and those who self-induce that cannibalization. And I'm using cannibalization on purpose because it's a bit of a striking, horrible word, but it's really what it means. You're going to disrupt your business model, you're going to change it, you're going to reduce your cost, you're going to expedite your transactions, and you're going to continue to inspire confidence because you will build that on the basis of an existing backbone, which is your bank and the confidence relationship that you've established with your customers. So that's where I see changes happening now. If you think of Circle and Ripples and all those, that's where they are active and helpful.
You're darn right. Now, all of that I want to show you against the backdrop of this. Now I want you to be thinking about everything I just showed you about Ripple and about CBDCs and what Ripple's been doing. And then I just want you to ask yourself, the adult version of yourself, not the child. Now I'm going to show you what I received from XRPPY, which is, now they did add over the top of his voice, make it a sound that makes it sound like he's crying. But just listen to his words. I just thought the crying part was so funny. The words and the crying are perfect. Just listen. This is Bitcoin.
But take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
Wait a minute, too loud. Let me take that volume down just a tad. I want you, against everything I just showed you, now I want you to hear this.
But take all your money, buy Bitcoin. Then take all your time, figure out how to borrow more money to buy more Bitcoin. Then take all your time and figure out what you can sell to buy Bitcoin. And if you absolutely love the thing that you don't want to sell it, go mortgage your house and buy Bitcoin with it. And if you've got a business that you love because your family works for the business that's in your family for 37 years and you can't bear to sell it, mortgage it, finance it, and convert the proceeds into the hardest money on earth, which is Bitcoin.
And that is Bitcoin maxis gone wild. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that Michael Saylor has said to do anything you can do. Go in debt, do whatever you can do to go buy Bitcoin, even though proof of work doesn't work, but he didn't tell you that part.